It now gives me great pleasure to hand the meeting over to Gay, who has come to share with us on spiritual awakening. Thank you, Gay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gay, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm from San Antonio, Texas. My sobriety date is October the 23rd, 1985, and for that, I'm truly grateful. Thank you for inviting me to share my experience, strength, and hope. Thank you for inviting me to share the miracle that has happened in my life. And, the whole program is about having a spiritual awakening. And I'm guessing maybe that means different things for everybody, just like we all have different concepts of a higher power. Maybe we all have different definitions and understanding of what a spiritual awakening is. And as I share my, experience, strength, and hope, what it was like, what it's like now, and how I moved to that place of being spiritually awake, at least some of the time, maybe it will be useful to someone else. I hope so. I was born legally blind. I am legally blind. My visual acuity is 20 over 200. If I stood 20 feet from an object and you stood 200, we'd see it about the same. I'm colorblind and sensitive to light. So when I got to this world, I was full of self-pity. I didn't fit in with the other kids. I couldn't do things my siblings were doing, and I had a lot of self-pity going on. My sister today is dealing with macular degeneration, and she has to get these injections in her eyes. And I shared with her, that, you're brave. I don't know that I want to go get an injection in my eye. And she said, Gay, this is an age-related disease, macular degeneration. She said, you are just a little girl that was trying to navigate life as a visually impaired, you know, person, a little girl. And she said, as far as I'm concerned, you get the bravery award. And it was so sweet to hear her share that. And then she said, I wished I'd have been a better sister when you were a little girl, when we were little girls, And I said, Joy, you were just a little girl yourself. You're not responsible, and she wasn't, but my parents were going through a grieving process. They had lost their first child. Then, they had my sister, me, and my younger brother. So here they were trying to support a family with 3 children, still grieving the loss of this death of their son. And they were wonderful parents, but I just think they did the best they could. They didn't understand. Most parents don't understand how to raise children anyway. And then to try to understand what I needed at that time, growing up, with the handicap that I was born with, they didn't know how to adapt to that and how to do that or how to help me. And they were suffering and they were trying to make enough money to support their family. And it was just okay. I love them with all my heart, till death did we part. My parents are not here anymore, but they were good parents in so many ways. My dad was an angry man. I think that was maybe his son's death, maybe being in the service and stuff. And he'd tell me things like I was stupid, lazy, and dumb. And here I was already dealing with this visual problem and already trying to function, and then being told things like that seemed to go in and out my brothers and sisters' ears. Didn't seem to affect it, but I guess I was just already struggling so much. The interesting part is no one knew. On the outside, I looked happy, joyous, and free and giggly, but inside there was this pain of I'm not good enough, I'm flawed, and I hurt, and I don't think I got my share in this life. And so that's kind of how my life was until I found alcohol. And then I got that ease and comfort that came with the first drink. I enjoyed the way alcohol made me feel. And then I found a new best friend, and it took that pain away until it caused more pains. The alcohol was my solution until it became my problem. And when I got into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous is when I started working towards that spiritual awakening. I've been told, and I love it, if you've gone through the 12 steps and you don't know more about love, you've missed the point of the program. But this program helped me to rearrange every belief system I had. I had a sponsor that said, Gay, there's another way of looking at this other than the way you're looking at it right now. Gay, there's another way of looking at this other than the way you're looking at it right now. Gay, there's another way of looking at this other than the way you're looking at it right now. And I was taught through working the steps to open up my mind, to open up my heart, to open up to question all those old belief systems, to start being able to approach and see life in a way that I've never had before. And when I could let go of all the static, all the noise, all the negative belief systems, all the stories I was telling myself. Real often today when I sponsor someone, I tell them, if you're going to make up a story, make up a good one, because we are all talented at creating stories. But for most of us, the stories we make up are gloom and doom rather than our higher powers here and involved, and there's the solution. So as I worked through the steps, and to give you one, example of, when I did the inventory work with my dad and heard that, started looking for my part. My dad said it didn't make it true. My dad said it, but I'm the one that used it, milked it, lived life by it, use it as an excuse to be lazy, not to do my homework, not to do the things that would have, helped, So when I finally looked at myself, I made room for my higher power to perform miracles. I graduated at the bottom of my high school class, but I had lost my excuse after I finished the steps of this old belief system that I'm lazy and dumb and flawed, and all the belief systems I came with. So I ended up going back to school, and I ended up graduating magna cum laude. And so I'm not college material, but I have a degree, and I'm a drunk, and I have 37 years of sobriety. I came in this program when I was 33, and now I'm 71. So this spiritual awakening is this place where I make room for God, because all the things I've shared with you up to this point was about my humanness, my self-pity, my pride, my fear, the static, the noise in my head. When I'm aware of, when I had the spiritual awakening, before that, I was spiritually asleep. My higher power, miracles could happen. There was more to the story, but I couldn't find any of that more to the story because I was closed off. As I work through the steps, I make room to know there's more going on. There's more going on that meets the eye. There's more going on than I can comprehend or understand. Today, I have a God of my misunderstanding. I do not know what my God's up to, but I am so curious how this is going to fit together, because the initial surface facts, or there's just more to it. I don't know a good day from a bad day or a tragedy from a miracle. I don't know how life's going to fit together, and I've learned to trust this. A year or so ago had this young girl ask me to sponsor her. She's 26 now, so she was about 24 at that time, or 25 or whatever, but she She's young. She reminds me of my granddaughter. She had never been in any trouble in her life. She's not street smart. She's just a good little girl. And she has 2 degrees, and she was working at a law firm. And one night she went out with some friends after work, and they went and had some drinks, and she hit someone. There was a tragic accident, and the lady she hit did not survive. So she has been spending the last 2 years going through the steps with that gift of desperation. And she wanted me to tell her everything's going to be okay. And I said, I can't tell you you're not going to do, you're not going to have to serve a sentence, but I can tell you no matter what happens, your higher power will be there, and it'll have an end, and you'll get through it. And so it's been postponed and postponed and postponed. Well, Monday I went down to the courthouse with her at her invitation. She wanted me there. And they needed to set an appointment because the prosecutors were ready to discuss a bargain for her, a plea for her, whatever. And they offered her 6 years in prison with 18 months before parole. And but they said she probably wouldn't get parole for 2.5 years. And so she was just, devastated. She's, like I said, she's not that kind of person. And this is the disease of alcoholism. So I met the next day with her, and I met her father, and I met her boyfriend, and we sat down, and I found a friend in the program that had been to jail. And this friend in the program, told her what to expect. It's not a pleasant experience. They'll strip search you, the guards will be mean, they're trained to be mean, she figured. And she said, just be respectful, don't, keep low, keep to yourself, develop a relationship with God, and and there's violence, these are things you can do in prison to protect yourself from. Just, my heart was breaking, hers was breaking, she was crying, her dad was crying, and all. So she had to be back in court on Friday. So I went with her Friday at her request again. I went with her dad and her back to the courthouse, and they were pulled out. The dad and her were pulled out, and the DA pulled the offer. They want her to have a harsher sentence. And this is where it's standing right now. She's going to have to go back Monday. I think the district attorney, the children of the mom that died, they agreed to it. The prosecution agreed to it, and her lawyer, she agreed to it. But the district attorney, I don't know if he's trying to make a name for himself, wants to get himself in the news or what, but he told his staff that he would fire all of them if they accepted that offer. So she is, it might go to trial in the next 30 days or so, and the trial would take about a week, and she doesn't know what her future holds. So, I texted her yesterday. I said, I can't tell you what's going to happen. But I do know there's going to be an end to this, and God's going to be there with you. That spiritual awakening again through the tragedies of life. You can't live a life without tragedy. Her tragedies are monumental. But also, I had this guy spoke at a conference last week, and this guy came up to me and was sharing with me. He said, my story is so different than yours. He said, but those feelings, he said, I thought this was bad, but being that little handicapped girl wasn't easy either. We all have stories where we get caught up into the humanness of it all. I was at a conference one time, and I heard this lady talk, and she said she was at a conference with Paul that wrote the story in the big, Dr. Paul, that wrote the story in the big book, about acceptance. And this lady, this is a story I heard. This lady walked up to him and she was so mad. She said, my daughter was raped. How can you say that nothing in God's world happens by mistake? And this lady that told the story said that Paul looked at her and said, that wasn't God's world. And I really love that, because things happen in life that cannot be God's world. But when we have a spiritual awakening, we become aware there is just more going on. There's more lives being touched and saved and used, and God turns everything, absolutely everything that we've ever been to, when we open up and let go, and turns it and moves it into something good and something useful. I was told in this program, Gay, because of what you've been through, exactly the way you've been through it, you're going to touch someone's life no one else can touch. And that's true for each and every one of us. Because of what you've been through, exactly the way you've been through it, you're going to be able to touch someone's life no one else can touch. I also understood, about a year into the program, that I'm not better than, I'm not less than, and I'm not equal to any other human being. We're just all on our individual journeys that are created, guided by this higher power. I absolutely understand and know today that this is an ongoing process of keeping my mind, my heart, my spirit open to love and that energy of love and trusting. There are times that I can wake up and just feel depressed, and I can't even put my finger on what could possibly be wrong, because nothing's any different than it was the day before. That nothing feels like it's any different. But today I know, it's not the whole story. It's not the whole truth. That space, pause when agitated and doubtful, ask for the right thought or action. That space that we create, that we don't know the whole story, is where I make room to be spiritually awakened and make this space for miracles. The age of miracles is still with us. Our own recovery proves that. I believe that today. I don't know what all's going to unfold or what's going to happen in your life or in mine or in anyone else's, but y'all told me, about this higher power. I thought it was this God where you rub this genie and then you made this wish or prayer and then you get whatever you want. Today I understand that's not like how life works, that life happens. But y'all taught me to connect with a higher power. So no matter what's going on, I have this connection and this spiritual movement and this spiritual guidance that allows me to approach life in a way that I never would have before. I forget all this. I forget everything I just told you, but I have the steps that allow me to work it again. I heard, to move to that place again. I heard this story that I really like, where they were doing a study to see if cars were aiming the way they were supposed to and how much they veered off to the right or left. That is my 10th step. I know, but before AA, I didn't even know the direction I was aiming towards love, towards living by spiritual principles, to live a life with integrity. I get off and off and off and off, but the steps help me to keep getting rid of the noise and the static and the old belief systems and the lies I tell myself, so that I can move back, aim in the direction I want to aim. That connection to a higher power allows us the love, the courage to walk into the gutter, the depths of despair with each other, hold each other's hands, and walk back out towards the light, towards that a spiritual awakening, towards this higher power. This process, this program is a miracle. You know, we have found a solution where we don't have to drink. You know, alcohol is a symptom of the problem. The problem is I didn't know how to do life. You know I get to continue to use these steps to create that reality that a higher power exists. And there's more going on than what I'm feeling or experiencing at that moment. I have never rested so much on my higher power. And, you know, this experience that I've had this week with this sponsee, you know, it's like watching a movie, except I'm part of the movie. And what I get to do is keep reminding her of what y'all told me. You know, I'm not that little girl that's flawed and handicapped. God's got a meaning and a purpose for my life. I can trust and open myself up to these miracles. I can keep putting one foot in front of the other. I can live and I can learn. I don't know who knows me and who doesn't, but I have the amazing honor of having my story in the 4th edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. One day I was at a meeting with one of the ladies I sponsored a bunch of years ago, a couple of decades ago, and on the way home, she had this packet of information, and she thought we should write our stories for possible inclusion in the 4th edition. I was busy at the time. I was going to school at the time. I had a test to study for at the time. So I wrote my story just as fast as I could. She gave it to me at the last minute, and so it had to be written and postmarked just within a few days or something. And 3.5 years later, I got a letter in the mail that the 4th edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous had been approved and my story had been selected. Now they're coming out with the 5th edition, and I was asked to sit on a panel with a couple of other authors of stories in the Big Book. So people that wanted to try to submit it's too late if you haven't done it, deadline's over. But for people that were interested in writing their story for possible inclusion in the 5th, and one person at that meeting said, it was a Zoom meeting, said, I think that would be the ultimate 12-step call to have your story in the Big Book. And I'm telling you, I do not agree. I absolutely do not agree. There is nothing any better than one alcoholic talking to another alcoholic, and that miracle of recovery happened. Why would I believe in a higher power that gave special privileges to only a few? We each and everyone in Alcoholics Anonymous have the opportunity to open up our hearts and share with another alcoholic and watch that miracle of recovery happen. We have been given, I believe, the secrets to living a life where we can find some peace. You know, it talks about, you hear people talk about, you know, this design for living has its benefits for all. You know, this is a beautiful way to live. And I am so glad. It's a gift. You know, when I got here, I thought AA was a punishment because I had been bad and I had to go to AA. Today, I understand that this was a gift, a beautiful gift to teach me how to live life differently than I ever would have if I hadn't walked into these rooms. I don't know how long I've talked, but thank you so much for inviting me to share my experience, strength, and hope with you. And we can talk some more. Thanks for letting me share.